The king of Blackwood Academy. Blackwood Academy was more than just a school, it was an empire built on legacy, privilege, and power. Located in one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the country, it was a place where the children of billionaires, politicians, and celebrities roamed its pristine halls with the arrogance of those who had never known struggle. The campus itself was breathtaking, sprawling green courtyards, glass-walled libraries filled with first editions, and sports facilities that rivaled professional stadiums. But beyond the polished surface, Blackwood Academy was ruled by an unspoken code, a hierarchy that decided who thrived and who suffered. Money mattered, but power mattered more. And at the very top of this pyramid sat Vincent Reyes, the captain of the basketball team and the self-proclaimed king of the school. Vincent was more than just another rich kid with a famous last name. His father owned half the luxury skyscrapers in the city, and his mother was a former model-turned-fashion mogul. He had been bred for success, trained from an early age to dominate in every room he walked into. And dominate, he did. Standing at 6 feet 3 inches with an athlete's build, Vincent was a force of nature both on and off the court. He moved through the school like a god among mortals, his word law and his influence undeniable. Teachers overlooked his arrogance, administrators made exceptions for him, and students either feared him, worshipped him, or desperately tried to stay out of his way. The basketball team was more than just a sports squad, it was a ruling class of its own. Unlike the rest of the student body, whose social standing came from last names and inheritance, the basketball players had earned their power through dominance. They weren't just elite athletes, they were the enforcers of Blackwood's unspoken laws. If they decided you were someone, you were someone. If they decided you were nobody, you were nothing. And no one crossed them. Vincent's reputation was legendary. He had humiliated students for sport, forced teachers to rewrite grades for him, and crushed anyone who dared to challenge his authority. He wasn't just feared, he was untouchable. Or at least, that's what he thought. That was before he met Amina Carter. Amina, the unshakable outsider. Unlike the other students at Blackwood, Amina hadn't been born into wealth or privilege. She was here on a full academic scholarship, a rare exception in a school where last names mattered more than test scores. The daughter of a military strategist and a former Olympic martial artist, Amina was raised in a household that valued discipline, intelligence, and resilience above all else. She wasn't interested in fitting into Blackwood's social hierarchy. While others obsessed over designer brands and extravagant parties, Amina focused on her studies. She excelled in every subject, effortlessly outshining her classmates in debate competitions, math olympiads, and science fairs. But it wasn't just her intelligence that made her stand out. It was her presence. Amina carried herself with an effortless confidence that made people notice her, even if she never sought attention. She didn't shrink in the presence of the rich and powerful. She wasn't intimidated by the whispered rumors or the unwritten rules of Blackwood. She walked the halls as if she belonged, not because of wealth or connections, but because she knew her worth. And Vincent hated that. At first, he ignored her. She was just another outsider, another scholarship kid who would eventually learn her place. But Amina never did. She didn't cower when the popular kids whispered about her. She didn't seek approval from the basketball team. And worst of all, she didn't fear Vincent. He had watched as she dismissed his presence in the hallways, refusing to give him the admiration he was used to. He saw how she carried herself with quiet defiance, unaffected by the invisible chains that bound the rest of the school. It irritated him. No one ignored Vincent Reyes. The moment that changed everything. It was a Friday morning when Vincent decided to remind Amina of her place. The cafeteria was buzzing with energy, students chatting excitedly about the upcoming weekend plans. The basketball team had just finished their morning practice and, as usual, Vincent led his group to their usual table, the best seats in the entire cafeteria, positioned right in the center where everyone could see them. But something was different today. Someone was sitting at their table. Amina Carter. She was seated alone, eating breakfast while scrolling through her phone, completely unaware, or perhaps unbothered, by the growing tension around her. The moment Vincent spotted her, the entire cafeteria seemed to pause. Conversations quieted, and curious eyes turned toward him, waiting to see how he would handle this blatant act of defiance. Vincent's lips curled into a smirk. "She's either bold or stupid," one of his teammates muttered beside him. Vincent chuckled. "Let's find out." The team moved as one, surrounding the table like a pack of wolves closing in on prey. Amina, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, finally looked up. Her sharp brown eyes met Vincent's, and for a brief moment, there was silence. Then Vincent spoke. "You're in my seat." Amina didn't blink. "Didn't see your name on it." A few gasps rippled through the crowd. Vincent's smirk didn't waver, but there was a flicker of something darker in his eyes, annoyance. "Cute," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "But you must be new here, so let me explain how things work. This table? Mine. My team sits here every day. And you? You don't belong." Amina tilted her head, unimpressed. "I belong wherever I choose to sit." The tension in the cafeteria thickened. No one ever talked back to Vincent like that. His smirk faltered. He placed both hands on the table, leaning forward so that he was towering over her. "Listen, sweetheart," he said, his voice low but threatening. "I'm trying to be nice here. You don't want to start something you can't finish." Amina held his gaze, unshaken. "I finish everything I start." The cafeteria erupted in murmurs. Vincent's patience snapped. He reached for her plate, ready to knock it onto the floor, just as he had done to so many others before her. But he never got the chance. Before his fingers could even touch the plate, Amina moved. And in the next 10 seconds, Vincent Reyes, the untouchable king of Blackwood Academy, was on the ground, gasping for air, the fall of a king. The moment Vincent Reyes hit the cold cafeteria floor, time seemed to freeze. For the first time in Blackwood Academy's history, the unbreakable captain of the basketball team, the untouchable, the feared, the self-proclaimed king, was flat on his back, clutching his stomach as he gasped for breath. The entire cafeteria erupted in chaos. Students jumped from their seats, some screaming, others covering their mouths in shock. Phones shot up in the air, cameras rolling as they scrambled to record what had just happened. The reigning champion of the school's social hierarchy had just been taken down, and not by another athlete, not by a rival, but by a girl. And not just any girl, Amina Carter. How it happened. It took exactly 10 seconds for Vincent Reyes to go from overconfident predator to breathless victim. The moment his hand moved toward her tray, Amina had already assessed the situation. She saw his posture, the overconfidence in his stance, the way his weight leaned forward, the assumption in his eyes that she would just sit there and take it. He was predictable. Weak in ways he didn't even realize. So she reacted. Before his fingers could even brush against her plate, Amina's hand shot out, but not to block him. Instead, she grabbed his wrist, twisting it in a way that forced his entire body to follow. He was too big, too cocky, and too used to people shrinking in his presence to expect resistance. Amina used that against him. She shifted her weight, planting her feet with precision, and with one swift motion, she redirected his momentum. Vincent had no time to react, no time to comprehend what was happening. His own strength was turned against him as his feet lifted off the ground and his entire body was thrown backward. The impact was instantaneous. Vincent slammed into the floor with a force that knocked the wind out of him. His head barely missed the metal leg of a nearby chair, his vision blurred, and his lungs strained for air. He had never felt this kind of helplessness before. He could hear the gasps, the laughter, the disbelief spreading like wildfire through the room. For the first time in his life, he was not in control. The aftermath. Amina calmly stood over him, completely unfazed. She didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She didn't bask in the stunned silence of the cafeteria. She simply picked up her tray, stepped over his fallen form, and walked away. And that was what made it so much worse. If she had laughed, if she had mocked him, if she had thrown some arrogant remark about his place in the hierarchy, then maybe he could have brushed it off as a lucky shot. But she didn't. She ignored him. Like he was nothing. Vincent's rage. As Vincent struggled to push himself up, hands gripped his arms, pulling him to his feet. His teammates, faces mixed with concern and utter disbelief, hovered around him. "Bro, what the hell just happened?" one of them whispered. Vincent's jaw clenched. His humiliation burned hotter than any physical pain. He could feel the weight of the eyes on him, students whispering, recording, laughing. Laughing at him. His hands curled into fists. This wasn't over. It was far from over. Amina's calm. Meanwhile, Amina had already left the cafeteria, moving through the hallways as if nothing had happened. She wasn't interested in the chaos she had left behind. She wasn't afraid of the consequences. She had grown up knowing that standing your ground meant more than just words. Her mother, a former Olympic gold medalist in judo, had taught her how to fight before she could even ride a bike. Her father, a retired military strategist, had trained her to anticipate danger before it even arrived. She hadn't just defended herself in that cafeteria. She had sent a message. She wasn't afraid of Vincent Reyes. And that made her more dangerous than he could ever imagine. The challenge. By the time the final bell rang that afternoon, Blackwood Academy was buzzing. The rumors had spread like wildfire. What had happened in the cafeteria had already become legend. The whispers followed Vincent like a ghost. "I still can't believe it." She took him down in 10 seconds. Did you see the look on his face? He looked terrified. Vincent's blood boiled. The more he heard, the worse it got. He had ruled this school for years. He had made grown teachers cower with a single glare. And now? Now he was the joke. He stormed into the locker room, slamming his fist against a row of lockers, making them rattle. His teammates exchanged uneasy glances. "Dude, you need to let this go," one of them muttered. Vincent snapped his head toward him, eyes burning. "Let it go," he spat. "You think I'm just gonna let some nobody humiliate me like that?" "She's not a nobody," another player muttered. "She's different." Vincent's nostrils flared. Different or not, she had crossed the line. He didn't just want revenge. He wanted to erase the very idea that Amina Carter had ever stood up to him. So that evening, as the school emptied and students left for their weekend plans, Vincent stayed behind, pacing. Waiting. Because he knew one thing for sure. Amina Carter's day wasn't over yet. And this time, he would make sure she knew who really ran Blackwood Academy, shadows of the past. The calm before the storm. Amina Carter wasn't naive. She knew exactly what she had done in that cafeteria. She knew who Vincent Reyes was. Knew the kind of power he wielded at Blackwood Academy. She had seen him destroy students before, not physically, but socially. He had the kind of influence that could turn people into ghosts. One word from him and students lost their status, their friends, their invitations to exclusive parties. Teachers mysteriously became stricter with grades, their futures dimmed under pressure from powerful parents. Vincent didn't fight his battles fairly. And Amina knew, without a doubt, that he wasn't done with her. But that didn't mean she was afraid. If anything, she was ready. So as the final bell rang and the halls emptied, Amina didn't rush home. Instead, she made her way to the gym, her duffel bag slung over her shoulder, the rhythmic tap of her sneakers echoing against the polished floors. She needed to train. It wasn't about Vincent. Not really. Fighting was part of her life, part of who she was. Her mother had always said, "You don't train for the fight that's coming. You train for the one you don't see." And that was the difference between her and someone like Vincent Reyes. He fought for control. She fought for discipline. Vincent's plan. Meanwhile, Vincent was seething. Humiliation burned inside him, fueling his rage like gasoline on an open flame. He had spent years building his reputation, his dominance, at Blackwood Academy. And now, in 10 seconds, Amina had undone it all. The worst part? It wasn't just the fall. It was how easily she had dismissed him. Like he wasn't worth her time. Vincent couldn't let that stand. But he wasn't stupid. He knew he couldn't just walk up to Amina and start a fight, not after what had happened in the cafeteria. That would make him look even weaker. No, he needed to break her in a way that mattered. And he had the perfect way to do it. The gym showdown. The gym was mostly empty when Amina arrived. A few students were still around, some finishing up weight training, others lazily shooting hoops. She went straight to the punching bag, her mind focused, her body already slipping into rhythm. Jab. Cross. Hook. Uppercut. Her muscles moved fluidly, trained from years of discipline. Every punch, every motion, perfectly controlled, precise. She was so focused, she almost didn't hear the footsteps approaching behind her. Almost. She turned just in time to see Vincent Reyes stepping into the gym, flanked by two of his teammates, both built like linebackers. A few students paused their workouts to watch. This wasn't an accident. Vincent wanted an audience. Amina didn't move, didn't shift her stance. She simply dropped her fists, tilting her head slightly. "Something you need?" she asked, her voice even. Vincent's jaw clenched. "Yeah," he said, stepping forward. "We need to talk." Amina sighed. "I'm busy." She turned back to the bag. A mistake. Because the moment she did, she heard movement, a subtle shift in the air. Instinct kicked in. She spun just as Vincent lunged. He grabbed for her arm, but she was faster. She sidestepped, twisting out of reach, and in a fluid motion, she grabbed his wrist, just like before. But this time, he was ready. Instead of resisting, Vincent used her own momentum against her. Amina felt the shift, felt the weight change, and before she could adjust, he yanked hard. She stumbled, just for a second. And that was all he needed. A solid shove sent her backward, not hard, but enough to make her lose her balance for just a moment. The gym fell silent. Vincent smirked. Amina caught herself, her breath steady, her heart calm. She straightened, rolling her shoulders. "That was cute," she said. Vincent's smirk faltered. "You think you're funny?" he spat. Amina sighed, shaking her head. "No. I think you're predictable." Vincent lunged again. But this time, Amina was ready. Her movements were lightning fast, a step to the left, a pivot, and in the blink of an eye, her fist connected with his ribs. A sharp, clean strike, not enough to break anything, but enough to make him feel it. Vincent stumbled, his teammates shifting forward, but before they could react, Amina was already moving. Her footwork was flawless, her form unshakable. Another punch, to his side. A sharp kick, to the back of his knee. And then, before he even knew what had happened, she swept his leg out from under him. Vincent went down, hard. The exact same way he had in the cafeteria. The aftermath. Silence. Pure, deafening silence. Vincent lay on the floor, gasping, pain radiating through his body. "Amina?" She simply looked down at him. No smirk. No gloating. No arrogance. Just calm. And then, she said the words that shattered him completely. "This is the second time you've ended up on the ground because of me, Vincent." The words hit harder than any punch. Because now, it wasn't just about power. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about who was truly in control. And it wasn't him. The breaking point. The fallout. The moment Amina walked out of the gym, she knew she had done something irreversible. There were moments in life when you could take back an action, undo a mistake. This wasn't one of them. By dropping Vincent Reyes twice, and in front of an audience both times, she had done more than just embarrass him. She had stripped away the illusion of his control. And that was something Vincent would never forgive. She could feel it in the halls the next morning. The way students whispered, the way eyes followed her, as if waiting for something huge to happen. The rumors had spread like wildfire. "Did you hear? Amina Carter floored Vincent Reyes again." "No way, twice?" "She didn't just beat him. She humiliated him. I heard he could barely get up." Amina didn't care about the rumors. She had dealt with worse. But what she did care about was the look Vincent gave her when she walked into the cafeteria. A look of pure, simmering rage. Vincent's next move. Vincent Reyes had never been afraid before. He had ruled Blackwood Academy for too long, his power unquestioned. Until Amina Carter changed everything. The worst part? It wasn't just about her. It was the whispers, the doubt creeping into the minds of people who had always feared him. If he let this go, if he allowed her to get away with making him look weak, then others would start to think they could challenge him too. He couldn't allow that. Not ever. So, Vincent did what he did best. He played dirty. The isolation begins. By the time lunch ended, Amina could already feel the shift. People were keeping their distance. Friends she'd spoken to just yesterday suddenly avoided her gaze. Her seat in the cafeteria, the one she always sat at, was taken by students who usually wouldn't have dared. She sighed. Here we go. It was classic Vincent. If he couldn't beat her physically, he'd try to break her socially. Amina grabbed her tray, ignoring the curious stares, and found a seat in the farthest corner of the cafeteria. She had been here before. Blackwood Academy thrived on social hierarchy, and Vincent controlled it. If he decided you were an outcast, people obeyed, because they were too afraid of being next. He's trying to push me out. He wants me to feel like I don't belong. But there was just one problem. Amina had never needed acceptance. She had never needed their approval. She had survived alone before, and she could do it again. But what Vincent didn't realize. He wasn't just fighting Amina Carter. He was challenging everything she had ever been taught. A lesson from the past. Amina's father had been a fighter. Not just in the ring, but in life. He had grown up with nothing, had fought for everything, and had drilled that same unyielding spirit into her. You don't just fight battles with your fists, Amina. You fight them with your mind. With your heart. Strength isn't just about muscles. It's about never letting anyone take your power. She had never understood those words as deeply as she did now. Vincent Reyes thought he was winning. But he was just pushing her harder. He wanted her alone. Fine. He wanted her broken. Not happening. But Amina wasn't just going to defend herself. She was going to end this. Vincent's mistake. 2 days later, Vincent finally made his move. Amina was walking toward the gym, her earbuds in, when she noticed something off. The hallway was too empty. Blackwood Academy was always buzzing with students between classes, but right now? Silence. She slowed, her instincts sharp. That's when she saw them. Vincent. And 5 of his teammates. Blocking the entrance to the gym. Oh, so we're doing this now? Amina didn't hesitate. She pulled out her earbuds, tucking them into her pocket, and met Vincent's glare with a calm, unreadable expression. "So," she said, stopping a few feet away. "You need backup now?" Vincent's eyes flashed with anger. "You think this is a joke?" Amina shrugged. "I think you're mad that I keep putting you on the ground." His jaw ticked. "You don't get it, do you?" Vincent stepped forward, his voice low, dangerous. "You're done at Blackwood Academy." Amina raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And you think you get to decide that?" He smirked. "I already have. Nobody talks to you. Nobody sits with you. Teachers are gonna start grading you harder. Your future? Done. You'll be just another nobody." Amina let out a breath. "That's your plan? Seriously?" Vincent's smirk widened. "It's already working, isn't it?" Amina took a step forward. Just one. And for the first time, Vincent took a step back. She saw it. That small flicker of hesitation. And that was when she knew, he was scared. She smiled. Not smirked. Not mocked. Just smiled. Because now, she was done playing defense. She was about to end this fight for good. And Vincent Reyes had no idea what was coming. The reckoning. Vincent's final warning. Vincent Reyes wasn't used to feeling cornered. But standing in that hallway, staring into Amina Carter's unwavering eyes, he felt something foreign creep into his chest. It wasn't just anger. It wasn't just frustration. It was fear. And Vincent Reyes hated feeling afraid. He clenched his fists, trying to regain control. He had spent years building his reputation, making sure no one questioned him, no one challenged him. But this girl had torn it all down in seconds. And now? Now, she was smiling at him. Not with arrogance. Not with mockery. But with certainty. Like she had already won. Vincent took a slow breath, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'll give you one last chance, Carter." His voice was low, controlled. "You walk away, you apologize for embarrassing me, and maybe, I let you finish the year without making your life a living hell." Amina tilted her head, as if considering his words. Then, she took another step closer. Vincent's teammates tensed, waiting for him to give an order. She wasn't afraid. Not even a little. "You know what your problem is, Reyes?" Amina said, her voice soft but firm. "You think power comes from fear." Vincent's jaw tightened. "It does." "No," Amina shook her head. "It never lasts. Fear only works when people believe in it. And guess what?" She leaned in, just slightly. "Nobody believes in you anymore." The breaking point. Vincent felt his stomach twist. He wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her she was wrong. But something inside him, something he couldn't ignore, knew she was right. Ever since their first fight, people had stopped looking at him the same way. The awe? The fear? It had been replaced with doubt. With whispers. With hesitation. His teammates were still standing beside him, but, for how much longer? That thought made his fury explode. With a sharp nod, Vincent signaled to his teammates. Amina barely had time to blink before two of them lunged. But she had been waiting for this. Amina versus the five. The first guy, Lucas, came at her from the right, swinging wide. Amina ducked low, sidestepped, and drove her elbow into his ribs. Lucas gasped, stumbling back as the second guy, Jared, tried to grab her arm. She twisted out of his grip, using his own momentum against him, flipping him over her shoulder. He crashed onto the floor hard, groaning in pain. The hallway erupted into chaos. Vincent's remaining 3 teammates hesitated. They had expected an easy fight. They thought Amina was just lucky before. Now, they weren't so sure. Amina exhaled slowly, rolling her shoulders. Next. The hesitation in their eyes was all she needed to see. For the first time, they were afraid. Vincent's last mistake. Vincent snapped. He charged at Amina with everything he had. No tricks. No teammates. Just rage. Amina didn't flinch. She sidestepped him at the last second, hooking her leg behind his ankle. Vincent tripped, his own momentum betraying him, and he crashed into the lockers with a deafening bang. The hallway went silent. Vincent groaned, pushing himself up, breathing hard. But Amina was already standing over him. Watching. Waiting. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't mocking. She just looked disappointed. And for some reason, that hurt more than the fall. The shift in power. Vincent's teammates were frozen. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then, slowly, one by one, they turned. And walked away. They left him there. Alone. For the first time in years, Vincent Reyes wasn't the one in control. Amina crouched down beside him, her voice calm. This was never about me beating you, Reyes. Vincent panted, eyes filled with exhaustion and rage. It was about showing everyone that you're not as strong as you pretend to be. Vincent clenched his fists. Shut up. Amina stood. You already lost. Then, she turned, and walked away. Leaving Vincent Reyes to face the reality of his own downfall, the end of a tyrant. The aftermath. For the first time in years, Vincent Reyes walked through Blackwood Academy alone. No entourage. No teammates flanking him on either side. No students rushing to greet him, to seek his approval, to hang on to his every word. The hallways, once his kingdom, now felt hostile. People still stared, but not with fear. They whispered, but not about how powerful he was. Instead, they talked about her. Amina Carter. The girl who had dismantled him in front of the entire school. The girl who had made people realize that Vincent Reyes wasn't invincible. His former power had relied on fear, and now? That fear was gone. And once fear disappears, so does control. Vincent's breaking point. He slammed his locker shut, his jaw clenched so tightly it ached. This couldn't be happening. He had ruled Blackwood Academy for so long, he had never even considered the possibility of losing. He had been untouchable. But now? Now, people avoided his gaze. Now, teachers no longer looked at him with the same favoritism. Now, even his teammates barely acknowledged him. Because of her. Vincent Reyes had spent years believing he was at the top of the food chain. Now, for the first time, he knew what it felt like to be at the bottom. And he wasn't sure he could survive it. Amina's rise. Amina Carter, on the other hand, had never felt stronger. She wasn't popular, she had never cared to be. But she was no longer an outsider. People no longer avoided her. People no longer whispered behind her back. She had earned their respect. Not through money. Not through status. But through strength. And not just physical strength. Strength of character. Strength of will. Strength of knowing who she was, without needing anyone else's approval. Amina didn't need to be feared to be respected. That was the difference between her and Vincent. And that was why she had won. Vincent's last attempt at revenge. But Vincent wasn't done. He couldn't just accept defeat. Not when his entire identity was built on being the strongest. So, he did what cowards do. He waited. Waited for the right moment. Waited for Amina to be alone. And then? He struck. The final confrontation. Amina was walking through the parking lot after school when she heard the footsteps. Heavy. Rushed. Intentional. She knew before she even turned around. Vincent. She sighed, turning just as he lunged. She dodged effortlessly, stepping back just as he swung wildly. "You're seriously still trying?" she asked, bored. Vincent was breathing hard, frustration clear in his eyes. "You ruined me." Amina raised an eyebrow. "No, Reyes. You ruined yourself." He lunged again. She sidestepped. He swung again. She dodged. Vincent was too emotional. Too reckless. Amina, on the other hand, was calm. Focused. Unshaken. And when Vincent made one final, desperate attempt, Amina grabbed his wrist, twisted, and slammed him to the ground. Hard. Vincent groaned, his body hitting the pavement with a loud thud. Amina crouched beside him, her voice low. "This isn't about me being stronger than you, Reyes." Vincent panted, glaring up at her. "It's about you never being as strong as you thought you were." His breathing was uneven, his fists still clenched. But he knew. It was over. For good. The end of Vincent Reyes. The next day, Vincent Reyes walked into school. But nobody cared. He wasn't feared anymore. He wasn't respected anymore. He was just a nobody. And the worst part? He knew it would never go back to how it was before. His reign had ended. And Amina Carter? She hadn't just defeated him. She had replaced him. Not as a bully. Not as a tyrant. But as someone who had shown everyone that power didn't come from fear. It came from standing up. It came from fighting back. And now? Now, Blackwood Academy would never be the same. The legacy of Amina Carter. Amina never wanted to be a queen of the school. She had no interest in ruling anyone. But after that day, something changed. People stopped allowing themselves to be pushed around. Students who had once been afraid now stood up for themselves. And Vincent Reyes? He became nothing more than a cautionary tale. A reminder that fear only works until someone stands up to it. And Amina Carter? She had stood. And she had won.